I guess this was my most productive week I've had in ages. And I didn't even go, work for more than like 3 days. So let's celebrate that, shall we? Cheers. Welcome back, everybody, to me having a fucked up voice because I just came back from 4 days of heavy metal and an anti-Nazi protest. Anyway, this is Weekly Navel-Gazing, where I talk about all the books I read last week, all the videos I did make last week, because I did actually make some, and, about the books that I plan to read this week, if I have plans, and of course some of the videos I plan to make, if I have plans in that regard. We will find out, so let's do that, shall we? And yes, I did read some books. I did read, obviously, Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, which was really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. And I did read The Book of Elsewhere by China Miéville and Keanu Reeves, which is not so very good. I did start reading Cosmic Trigger by Robert Anton Wilson, which is part of the Conspiracy Fiction Project. So yes, I'm doing more research in that regard. Also, read this other book. I'm not even sure if I want to talk about. It's a brilliant book. Don't get me wrong. I have enjoyed this book, but I've not talked about reading this book or talked about not having read this book for a long time. That now I'm like, I didn't tell anyone I read The Spear That Cuts Through Water, right? So should I even talk about it afterwards? So yeah, it's a good book. It's a solid one. I've read it finally. Anyway, that's what I read last week. I did also read some more, non-fiction stuff. I'm currently reading The Most Radical of Gestures, or The Most Radical Gesture, The Situationist International in a Postmodern Age. And it's a very, very good book. I'm learning a lot more about the Situationist International. This is interesting stuff. And yes, it is also connected to the conspiracy fiction video. That will definitely come out at some point. So yeah, that's my reading for last week. I have no idea what I'll be reading this week because I'm completely out of the loop. I have no idea. I'll definitely read the Cosmic Trigger stuff. They're really short. There's 3 books. I mostly wanted to read them about all the stuff about Chapel Perilous and stuff like that, because it's always good to have your sources. I knew that it was in there. I had read the quote before, but if I want to talk about Chapel Perilous in a conspiracy fiction video that has footnotes, I better get the footnote right? So yeah, I'm gonna read those, and there are a lot of interesting books coming up in August. I just have completely lost track of time, so I will go and look at a list of upcoming releases. I will see when the ones that I wanted to talk about, for example, Blackheart Man by Nalo Hopkinson, which will come out sometime in August. There is, obviously, at the end of the month, 6 Lives by Lavi Tidar, which definitely will happen when, as soon as possible. There are other things that I'm aware of. There is a new Silvia Moreno Garcia novel coming out. It's called The Seventh Whale of Salome, I think, and it sounds really interesting. I've wanted to read her stuff for a long time. So this may just be the one that I start with, and there is, of course, it's called The Captive War, whatever, the new James S.A. Corey novel, and I'll definitely read that one. I'll definitely talk about it when it comes out. We'll see if it is better or worse than The Expanse, which I think is overhyped. But that might be a topic for a different video at some point. Anyway, so there are vague plans. I just need to figure out what happens when. If you have recommendations and stuff that I should definitely go and read, don't say The Spear Cuts Through Water. No, but anything else, let me know. I'll consider it. So there's that. Let's talk about videos then. And yes, I was incredibly productive because I did, in fact, put up 4 videos, 3 plus the Navel-Gazing, which I think is it was pretty impressive for me for the last months at least. I did put out the video on the Decameron. I'm really happy about it. I filmed it outside in a field. I've heard that most of you have liked the change in scenery, so I'm glad that worked out. It was one of those things that I was really hoping for with the new camera, to be able to be a bit more flexible, a bit more creative when it comes to shooting videos or recording videos in different situations and so forth. But just be more flexible, I guess. So doing the Decameron thing out in a field felt like a fun idea, and it worked. It worked better than I feared it would during the filming, because oh man, it was so fucking hot out there. It was like 30 something degrees in the sun, and the camera obviously overheated, so I had to wait for it to cool down to film the rest. And because it's out there, I can't really check the video, so I don't know. I was gambling a bit there, but it worked out. All that sweat was apparently for something, so yeah, good thing, right? And then I did make a video about Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, which I really, really, really appreciated. I really enjoyed that book, and even recorded 2 videos because I was unhappy with the first one, so that's what you got. And then, of course, I did make a video about the Book of Elsewhere, which has been a very successful video for me, which I think is because the names are obviously big, so everyone was excited about the Keanu Reeves China Mieville thing, and yeah. I wish the book had been better. I tried to explain where I see the issues with the book, and yeah, apparently it's doing real well. So thanks everyone for watching these videos, and thanks for subscribing to the channel, because I gained something like 10 subscribers in the last week, which is really good. I'm still one of the slowest growing booktube channels, I guess, but that's probably something that will remain the case for me and my content for the longest time. Anyway, point is, thanks if you're new. I hope you like what you see. Thanks if you're old and still here. I really appreciate that as well. Thanks for watching these new videos and telling me a lot of stuff about it in the comments, because there's a lot of comments in these videos, and I really appreciate that. I've said this before, like, you know, comments are sort of the best way for us booktubers or YouTubers in general to sort of gauge the success of our videos, because yeah, there's likes, and they help apparently for the algorithm. Don't ask me, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but they do help, and please like and subscribe and all of that. But comments kind of give us a bit of a feedback of like, if you agree with us, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if I manage to at least sort of get my point across. And so having comments really, really helps in a way, like on a more personal, psychological way. Reading your comments really helps. And now that I'm back from a heavy metal festival that we'll talk about in a second, I will actually answer to your comments, because, you know, sitting in a tent in the middle of nowhere with basically no phone reception makes replying to comments in YouTube very difficult. So that's why I didn't react earlier. I'm sorry, I just wasn't there. Anyway, so that's all the videos. I think there's like 1 or 2 things I just felt like mentioning. There is that link to the allegations against, or accusation, whatever you want to call it, against China Mieville, and I was thinking about like whether to include that or not. There's obviously the whole Neil Gaiman situation going on at the moment. I'm not sure if I should make a video on this. I've seen some people do it, well, not so much booktuber, but like larger media criticism and so forth, leftist channels, and I appreciate that. It might be worth its own video if I have enough smart takes, sort of, that I think are relevant here. But because of that, and me being vaguely aware of the fact that there was something going on with China Mieville, I figured I had to sort of mention something and not just be silent about it, so I put down the main text by that one person that brought forth those allegations. You can read it, and I just wanted to acknowledge that this exists. I think that's the way I chose to deal with this, because this is something we need to sort of figure out over the years. That with social media and us learning more and more about the kind of people authors are, or artists are, that we have to deal with. It's like, some of them are obviously bad people, some of them are, you know, outright evil. There's a whole spectrum out there of people doing stuff and saying stuff that we may disagree with and so forth. There's like, how do we deal with this? Because this is not going away anytime soon. We could ignore that stuff in like the, you know, pre-internet era, because unless you deliberately went and read certain parts of certain newspapers or whatever and sought this stuff out, you did not find out about these things. Now you do. Now we do. Now we can't just close our ears and eyes and go like, I have never heard about this. We need to find ways to incorporate that in our discourse, whether we want to separate art and artist or not, because there's a connection there that is more and more relevant, because once again, the way we built our publishing industry and tied it in all the wrong ways to social media means that the separation between art and artist is definitely revoked or will be overcome more and more. It's like ignored more and more by the publishing industry that is deliberately trying to tie the artist to the art, turn the artist, into an object of parasocial experiences, parasocial relationships, because that once again sells more books. This is a topic that I will still make a video about when we talk about Brandon Sanderson, because we need to talk about Brandon Sanderson in that regard. But it is very much a process that is going on that makes the idea of separating art and artist more and more difficult, more relevant as a topic of discussion. And as booktubers or media creators or whatever we want to call ourselves, right? We need to find ways to do these things. And yeah, so I just wanted to mention why I put that there. I don't know if any of you have ever even clicked on the link. I think it's important that it is there. I said it is there. Check it out for yourself, because yeah, I think that's important. Like, anyway, let me know what you think about these kind of things in the comments, because then we can have a conversation about it. Maybe in the future there will be a video about separating art and artists, because I think, yeah, it's important. And definitely, obviously, there will be the Brandon Sanderson thing, but that's its own video project that I've already studied way too much, read way too much for, and then kind of didn't do anything, because I get scared. And I get scared really easily. Which is obviously the next kind of thing that I wanted to talk about before we end this for today. See, I went to this festival, and I was very, very happy and very glad I went to the festival. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun. I did not find my tent the first night, so had to stay up with the security guys and hanging out with them until, it got light, and the rest of my people woke up again and could find me again, so that was fun. Which is, just one of those, like, disability things. And yes, there is still the idea that maybe I'll talk about dependency, I guess, is one way of calling it. Yeah, that's, the thing where I'm like, once per year I'll allow myself to whine and about disabilities, and make it about disability and not just about books, which is my usual reflex. But the other part about the festival, which was really great, was there, obviously there was a bunch of bands that I really liked, including one that has probably been one of the most important bunch of people in the way that my life has sort of evolved over the last decade or so. They were like tied to some of the best things I've ever done, some of the best things I've really enjoyed, best moments of my life. They were really good there, but they were also there when I, fell apart and fucked up really brutally the last 2 years with depression, burnout, whatever you want to call it. And I obviously felt incredibly bad for, fucking them over and fucking over a lot of other people. So meeting them once again in person was certainly something I was really scared about. Because it's, it's easy to sort of imagine what everyone else thinks about you, especially when you know that you have fucked up in some way, shape, or form. But it's, reconnecting, apologizing, bracing myself for, possible criticism and so forth is something that took a long time for me to kind of figure out. I'm still very much figuring it out. It's an ongoing process, right? And I think it kind of ties back to this idea that that also kind of sometimes hampers me when it comes to making these videos, where I have a larger issue with feeling inferior, with feeling sort of not good enough to do the things I do, to say the things I say, and so forth. It's sort of like tied to, I guess, what you might call imposter syndrome. I'm not, someone who wants to bandy about like psychological diagnoses that no one has, I don't self-diagnose, is my point. I'm not the expert here. But it goes into that kind of direction, and I think it's important to realize that is something that, prevents me from making videos, or doesn't necessarily prevent me from making videos, but makes it very, very difficult, or it can make the research process, for example, much more elaborate than it probably would need to be. And this is, the big reason why the Brandon Sanderson video is not yet out, and I've started researching it last year, over like more or less immediately after the whole Year of Sanderson announcement thing back in like last year. not even the Brandon Sanderson, Geoff Sanderson announcement, but the one with the two articles when they came out by Esquire, and what's the other one, Wired, I think. God, it's been ages, right? So I started preparing for that, and I have an argument. It is about parasocial relationships. It's about the culture industry. It's about like the whole 9 yards, and the problem is, for that kind of video, I need to explain some theory. I need to explain some philosophical theory. And as someone who has very, very much fucked up in relation to a PhD project in the field of philosophy, that I have, because I stopped being able to like put words on pages and just like had a huge mental health issue for the last 5-6 years. It did certainly go through different phases, but it was always there. And so a video where I have to explain philosophy, something that I feel inferior about because I feel like a failure in that specific field, has made it very difficult to do this video, because I need to get my shit together and go like, yes, I'll explain situation as thought to you, and you can trust me, even though I'm according to some standards a failed philosopher. I can do this because we're doing this on YouTube. I'm not officially paid to be a teacher or anything of the sorts. And I need to overcome this fear. And I think having events like this festival, reconnecting with people where I also felt inferior and was scared that they would just like, never ever talk to me again because I fucked up, or be as harsh a critic of myself as I am, and overcoming that and having a great experience, and having a couple of beers and having good talks and everything, and helps me sort of rebuild some of that confidence from time to time, I think. So I guess in that regard, it was a great festival, and I don't have much voice left. I'm also even more broke than usual, so I'll better figure out a way to pay for food until, the next, the first of the month, which is when I obviously will be, able to pay for stuff, but until then, I'm very much living on whatever I can still find in my fridge. Anyway, didn't want to complain too much about the money stuff, it just kind of came up. Anyway, these are my thoughts for the week. Let me know what you did. Let me know what you read, what you plan to do, all of that good stuff. And maybe I'll manage to make a video or two over the next couple of days, and we can have more conversations. So yeah, I don't know. Say stuff in the comments. Yell at me. Do the like thing. Do the subscribe thing if you haven't. I don't know. Have fun is, I guess, the point. And I'll see you very, very soon about something else. And until then, thanks and cheers.